to be P. Diddy's next name. Sorry, I made that joke in 5th grade and it really worked back then. My name is Katrina Dennis.
I was like, I'm just going to say that.
I am one of the hosts of Woman Up podcast. For those of you who don't know, but I think all of you do because it looks like we're a family tonight. Woman Up is a show about 3 crazy feminist cat ladies who talk about pop culture and all sorts of wonderful things like video games and movies and comic books and what it's like to experience them from a perspective that is not necessarily considered all the time. With that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and let my fellow panelists introduce themselves as they tweet the beginning of this panel. First up, we have Sarah Rodriguez. What do you do, Sarah?
Hi, I go by SarahTheRebel. If you call me Sarah Rodriguez, I will not answer you. That's my government. We don't talk. And I am the co-host of Woman Up, and I also work at Loot Crate as a writer. And if you've seen the awesome WWE Slam Crate, I just want to say all those puns are mine. And I've also written Marvel's Agent Carter Season 1 Declassified. I did not write the title of that book. It's very long. They just locked us. I thought Darth Maul just locked us in. I also stream on Twitch sometimes. Hi.
Next up is Dani Fernandez.
Hi, I'm... Oh, no.
Although
I feel like I'm Latin and loud and I can just easily talk to everybody. My name is Dani Fernandez. I have a podcast called Krillin It. If you are a Dragon Ball Z fan, I also enjoy puns. So, yeah, and Sarah was just on her episode drops next week. I am also host on Geek and Sundry's Anime Gateways. If you are also a WWE fan, I feel like we're the same person.
Yeah, oh my God.
If you are also a WWE fan, Xavier Woods of New Day is my co-host on there. He is fantastic, so check that out. And yeah, I've also written things that you can Google and find online.
Yeah, she's very funny. Follow her on Twitter.
Oh, thank you.
Omar.
Hi, how's it going? I'm Omar. I'm the co-host of Sunnydale Studygroup, a Buffy podcast, as well as Hey Sailor, a Sailor Moon podcast that talks about Sailor Moon for 5 minutes.
I need to be on your show.
Yeah,
and DBZ one too.
And I was also a geek and story vlogger back in the day when YouTube was a thing.
We don't talk about
I'm just
that.
kidding. No, it's still alive and fresh, and Vine is doing wonderful. And that's that's a full summary of me.
And Tamara.
Hi there, I'm Tamara Brooks. I am a writer. Also, I work at Loot Crate. That's how Sarah and I met, actually.
Our anniversary's
First
coming up
day.
soon.
Yeah, first day. We had to say first day. Yeah, you can see all my words in the magazine. So also, I'm the third host, the newly minted third host of Woman Up.
We minted her.
Yeah.
It was a long process.
Yeah, we had to go to very many DMV offices for this one. So.
I am embossing on my back now. And also, I have worked for a bunch of different stuff. I have Conflict Resources, the C4TUF. You can Google me and find all my businesses in terms of the writing stuff. Stuff and things.
Yeah.
Stuff and things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I forgot to mention that I also do things outside of the podcast. I write for StarWars.com, and I'm a blogger for The Wrap. I am also very proudly Chilean, which is one of the reasons that we're here. All right. I'm sorry. The last time I was at this convention center, it was like the World Cup, so I'm still in the spirit. I'm still like, yeah, we won this year. All right. So I'm really excited to be talking to you guys because you all, when you go and look at the front page of iTunes, it's interesting the type of podcasts that make it to the top and the type of hosts that you see. And so rarely is there a panel of hosts that looks so much like you guys. So I guess I wanted to start out. Yeah,
No one is beautiful.
got so pretty. It's so nice. I guess I wanted to start out, and we can go down the line or bounce between each other. With your inspirations as a podcast host, who do you think is the person who kind of motivates you, or the show that motivates you to do more?
That's pretty easy for me, actually. Jamie Broadnax does Black Girl Nerds, and they are an amazing podcast, and they were kind of I don't even want to say kind of, they were definitely a big inspiration for me whenever I want to see what's the right way to do something, because her success is really obvious. You could just go to her page and see, like, Idris Elba was on her show. She touched his hand. It was a really big deal. So she's somebody that I look towards as, like, this is where I want to be one day.
Yeah, I would say my co-host, Iffy, also really helps with that conversation. And so is one person that I really look up to is Hector Navarro, that's over at Geek and Sundry. If you guys don't know him, he is like the ultimate ally. I think a lot of times people, at least that we get tweeted at sometimes, is like, just be funny, go back to telling jokes. Like, comedy was never about politics ever. Like, that's just absurd. Like, these are jokes. That's why they have thousands of retweets. But I feel like it's so important, and I cannot not talk about these things. I don't know if you guys went into those issues, but I cannot not talk about diversity. I can't just stick to talking about movies and Star Wars and stuff, which, granted, there are podcasts if you want to listen to that. That is not my podcast. My podcast, I would say, is 50% Dragon Ball Z and 50% talking about the issues that people of color and specifically women deal with being in the nerd community. Because we do deal with it a lot, and representation matters. I don't care if people try. Also, I feel like people, this is going to be a little rant, will try to silence you. I get that a lot. People will try and tell you to be quiet. And to me, that just means that I need to keep speaking up louder. So, yeah.
That's such a good, I don't want to go out.
I'm angry, if you can't tell.
I want completely apolitical jokes. Just a man stepping on a rake. It doesn't have to be a man. I'm sorry. I don't know why. Oh, jeez. The downward spiral starts.
Because he deserves it more.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
Depending on who it is. Not you guys. Just to clarify.
Stay on the rake side.
I think probably my biggest inspiration, I love, my friends Ashley and Jason have a podcast called Geek History Lesson, and they're absolutely incredible because it's this geeky podcast where they're talking about stuff they know and stuff that they sometimes don't. And it's like they have such a comfortable way of approaching that, and I really like that. And it's kind of a combination. This is the worst answer to give at this panel, especially, but Ira Glass is probably my biggest inspiration. That's the dude from This American Life. And the way that he talks to people and gets them to sort of open up and be comfortable about like sort of what they go through. And so it's not just like this crazy, crazy tearjerker story, but you're kind of getting into people's like vulnerable day-to-days. My co-hosts Chris Bramante and Holland Farkas, they open up and say some weird stuff on the podcast. Chris one time talked about how like he used to bathe with a bucket.
It's a thing you gotta do sometimes.
Yeah, well he didn't have to. He had a shower, but he didn't want to stop watching Buffy in the basement. So he was like, "This is my solution." Cool. But it's one of those things where it's just like it's really cool to just have a microphone in front of people and just slowly make everyone feel comfortable and open up and get those sort of stories because they're all beautiful and great. And I think I got that from those two specific podcasts.
I don't know if there's any specific podcast that kind of does that. I think I'm more inspired by like kind of everything and like the continuing conversation that I'm seeing happening because when I started freelancing, diversity questions weren't a thing that was asked at the TCAs. Now like the head of CBS was grilled every year about why don't you have any directors and why isn't there any diversity thing. And that's awesome because back when I was, starting out doing my freelance stuff, it was not a thing. The very first person I ever asked about that was Ming-Na Wen when she was doing Stargate Universe. And she was like, I was like, I wonder if this is a thing. And she talked about it and she's very passionate about it. And so that was kind of the thing that clicked to me. Because for a long time, like Ming-Na Wen is one of the most prominent Asian actors in America because we don't have that many. Not that she's not great, but we also don't have that many. So I just was like, that was just kind of an interesting thing, and it clicked to me at that moment to ask her about it. It wasn't even I don't plan my interviews. That's another thing I should probably admit.
Which is why we make her do all the interviews.
I do. Yeah, I don't plan them at all. I'm just like, what are you in? Okay, we'll figure it out.
Phil and Mark kind of yelled at us for that.
Well, we prepped questions, and that's why it went wrong. Anyways, that's the whole thing. The 2 times I've ever prepped questions, it just went terribly, so I just don't do it. Anyways, sidebar. So I just like seeing that this conversation has happened a lot more, seeing that people have different point of views, learning about other people's experiences with things, because my experience with stuff growing up is not somebody else's. I've been on diversity panels before, and I mentioned that growing up. my favorite character was always the redheaded character because it's the least represented white person.
Pepper Ann?
I love it. But like that's the thing, like you see all this stuff with people and you're trying to grasp onto something different, and when there are no people of color, then I would just be like, I like the redhead person, and I realized later it's because they are the least represented white person. So so it's just that the ongoing conversation and hearing people's experiences and seeing how you can push it forward, that's kind of what drives me.
I guess in my respect, I would say the Legion of Leia podcast is one of the podcasts I've been listening to for like the longest, because I've always been a Star Wars fan. And so Jenna Bush, who runs that podcast, always has such incredible different voices on every week. And you'd think that, when you start out with old school Star Wars, you'd have a bunch of guys on. But she goes above and beyond to make sure that women and people of color are coming to talk about how much Star Wars means to them, because a lot of times when you think about fandom, especially one like that, it's like, oh, it's a bunch of white guys. And so it's kind of a responsibility in that respect to say, no, this person likes Star Wars, or this person likes DBZ, and so I think that's really like the important part of podcasting too, is like when you do bring on guests, you have to consider whose opinion you value on your show. And I think that kind of leads me into my next question. When you're lining up guests, are there certain people that you either had in the past that you thought were fantastic guests, or you're hoping for soon?
I think my favorite guest was actually Dante Bosco.
Yes.
You guys might remember him from Hook. And he does spoken word. If you're into the spoken word scene out here in LA, you might know him from that. But he had just a lot of really insightful things to say. And, we didn't always agree. I think that's what made the podcast to me so interesting, because it was also an exercise in, can I talk to somebody and disagree with them without yelling? I can. I was very proud of myself. But, we had different opinions, and he brought new perspectives to the podcast. And I think that's something that's really what you should be looking for. If you are like, okay, we'll use us as an example. If you're crazy feminist cat ladies, maybe every guest shouldn't be also a crazy feminist cat lady, or you're just giving one voice. You're not really doing anything for their diversity.
I would say Sarah was one of my favorites.
Wow.
Oh my God. Her, Hector again, and Hector Navarro. We had Jeff the Stray, who did the artwork for our logo, and he is a person that does a lot of cosplay, and he's also, I feel like, a feminist, and is very outspoken. He's very woke. He's very with us. And I just feel like I actively try and book women on the Dragon Ball Z podcast, because I'm in a lot of Dragon Ball Z forums and YouTube pages, and it's always like, women like Dragon Ball Z? I'm like, yes, these are literally men in spandex. Like, of course we love it. Yeah. But I agree. We try to book diverse opinions. I would say if you and I might not always agree with you on it, but I think it's an important conversation. I will say that the people that have tweeted at us and saying like, oh, I noticed you guys talk a lot about police brutality on your Dragon Ball Z podcast, or things of that nature, because it comes up, or you talk about cosplay and consent, or you talk about women's representation in comics and the sexualization of females in comics and things like that. Yeah, we do, and I feel like it is a part of our world, so I don't know why we wouldn't talk about it. That I feel like is one of the biggest issues that I kind of run into, is like, oh, why don't you just talk about anime? Which, by the way, I just want to say, anime is a property that we are borrowing from the Japanese culture. I feel like a lot of times, at least in my world, I deal with weebs or white elitist people.
Let's just get it all out.
I'm sorry. These are conversations, if you listen to Krillin It, that we talk about, that white elitist people who have grabbed and latched onto anime, which is fantastic, but I need them to remember that you're borrowing this culture. You're borrowing this, so you don't get to tell other people, especially we had, Jessica Sang, she's doing panels today and tomorrow, I'm on a panel of hers. She actually told a story about when she was in Japan and had a white weed person correcting a Japanese person, and the person was like, no, like was like actively corrected them. And listening to her story about it, if you want to go back on Krillin It and listen to her episode, it was just so satisfying to have someone be like, excuse me, this is my culture. I think I know about it more. So those are the conversations that we have on the podcast, and it is something that I feel like we encounter and is a necessary conversation to have.
And not to interject too much, but since we're on the topic of DBZ, this is also, I agree that it is a property of Akira Toriyama and the Japanese, but as far as my DBZ experience goes, all my DBZ friends were blurs. Like, I have never met a stronger community of blurs who were just like, yes, DBZ.
Like, that was our shit.
That was all my knowledge, all my training came from Sensei blurs. So that's how I was raised too. Go on, Omar, I'm sorry about that.
Oh, and that's completely
You
true.
only
That
get
was my
20.
experience.
You only get 20% of the time years. Minorities.
That's well used to that. My answer is also Sarah. We had a blast because we finished out season 2, and it was very emotional. If you've seen Buffy, you know it's very emotional. My longer answer to that is sort of an embarrassing story. For the Buffy podcast, it was originally going to be just Chris and myself, or it was just going to be Chris and me. That's grammatically correct. And so we were talking to Holland about it one time, and we were just like at Veggie Grill, just like chatting about it, and we realized that we needed her because it was going to be just 2 dudes talking about Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And it's like, this is a really important show about women, and like, let 2 men explain to you what's so important about
I
it.
can't think of 2 better men though, just FYI.
Oh, thank you. That's very nice. I might be able to, but and so like right away we're like, we really need like Holland's input because like we don't even know like most of like what she's going through, even like we could like say we are, but we didn't. And the second that Holland was a host, it totally changed the dynamic, and it was just such a great electric feel because Chris would say something and then she'd argue with it, but then she would make a stance where I'm like, but you're privileged, and then it's just like this like ongoing like paper scissors rock. So I would probably say to answer the spirit of your question, it would be Holland Farkas, who is just incredible. She's amazing. If you guys haven't met her, you find her. Oh, don't
like find her.
like in like a public setting.
On Twitter.
Just roll up behind people.
Omar said I could find you. Yeah, she lives at no,
I will give you a phone number. I haven't been podcasting for like too long. I have fits and starts and things like that. So far, the only guest I've been there for is Phil, and he's very combative, but in a fun way. It's not like bad. It's just
He
actually
fought us though.
He did fight us. I saw him earlier and said hello.
Oh,
So
good.
you know, you
Did
can check.
he fight you?
No, he didn't. He was very nice. Not that he wasn't nice on the podcast. So I'm just going to go that way. But like, because you know, if the interviewing process is very weird because when you are interviewing a person,